بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين ورحمة الله للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All the praise and all the glory is due to Allah, and I bear witness that there is no God worthy of being worshipped but Allah, and that Muhammad is his last prophet and messenger. May the blessings and peace of Allah be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and those who followed his path up to the day of judgment. My dear respected brothers and sisters, followers of About Islam Facebook page, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to one of our live sessions where we will try to answer some of the questions which have been sent to us, and also we invite everybody to write his question on the live session inshallah, and we will try to answer this immediately. First of all, I would like to send all my greetings for all brothers and sisters in the Muslim world who celebrated the Eid al-Fitr and the end of the month of Ramadan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower all his mercy and tranquility upon all of them, and to accept all of our righteous deeds. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide us with so many returns for the month of Ramadan. The first question that I have received, and I think the brothers and sisters on the website will try to post for us some more questions. The first question was actually related to the month of Ramadan, and it is sent by one of the brothers who said, Assalamu alaikum, please find below, Assalamu alaikum, last week I felt I had bleeding. This is one of the sisters, minute black particles, but since Ramadan month is over, with God's blessings, I did not get my cycle. Is this istihada? If it is so, I have prayed and kept fasts also. Then what is the case? Is it obligated? Here the case of a sister who had a bleeding, and this bleeding have continued for a while. The answer on this question is that it depends on how long did it continue. So as it is her, if it is less than 24 hours, so if she gathers the whole time and it is less than 24 hours, so it is regarded as istihada. We will regard it as istihada, as bleeding or abnormal bleeding. And in this case, the istihada, or the woman who suffers from istihada, she can pray, there is no problem, and she can also observe her fast without any problem. And she doesn't make up those days again, because she already does it. In case the blood continues to be more than 24 hours and less than 15 days and nights, so in this case we will regard it as a cycle, as a period. It's in her menses. So the question is directed back to the sister. If the blood that you have seen is continued for less than 24 hours, in this case you regard it as istihada, and what you did is correct, that you continued your fasting and you also made your regular prayers. If it is more than 24, so in this case you have to regard it as a regular period, and in this case you have to make up the prayers that you made, and also make up the day that you fasted during the month of Ramadan, because it's one of the conditions for the validity of fasting that a woman should be actually in her state of ritual purity. So this is very well known. I think here we have some more questions. Sister Catherine has and Sister Tani, they try to post on the website. The first question is, what is the Islamic view of trying to interpret the meaning of our dreams? I have always had very vivid dreams, and my mom and I would try to use books or just our own minds to think about the message which are sent through these dreams. Okay, the answer on this question is that the dreams are of three types. There are three basic types of dreams. Number one, it may be a true vision which has been which becomes true next day, and the Prophet ﷺ talked about it in the authentic hadith, that he said that لم يبق من النبوة إلا المبشرات. Nothing left over of prophethood after the death of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ except al-mubashirat, the glad tidings. They said, what are the glad tidings? They said, it is a dream which a believer sees or it is seen for him. So it is a type of glad tidings, and this is why it is a part, and it's according to another hadith, it's a part of 46 parts of the prophethood, simply because the similarity between dreams and prophethood is that a person plays a negative rule in dreams. Those dreams cannot be acquired. A person cannot acquire dreams according to his own training. It cannot be acquired by, but this is the case of prophethood and an inspiration or revelation when it comes to a person. So this is the first type of dreams. The second type of dreams is that it is hadithun nafs. It's just that when a person is obsessed with something, that he can, most probably he will see it in dream. A man came to one of the scholars and he said, actually I want to see the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I try to do it, and I prepare myself and I make salat to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and every time I don't see him in my dream. So this scholar told him, I will give you a suggestion. You take some salt and you eat them, and afterwards you don't drink water and you just sleep. And then he came next day to this scholar and he said, what did you see in your dream? And he said, I saw that I'm passing by a river, coolers, and I'm trying to drink. I was very thirsty. He said, this is your own status. So according to what a person thinks about, he actually most probably sees that in dreams. So this is the second category. It's a reflection of what a person is obsessed with. This is the second type. The third type is a nightmare. It is something which comes from the shaitan, and the Prophet ﷺ said that it is not a ru'ya, and it's a hulm. It is like a nightmare when the shaitan tries to afflict some trials for the believers by trying to make troubles for them in their sleep. And it happens, and the Prophet ﷺ mentioned to us how to treat this type of dreams or bad dreams, that you should not actually tell anybody about them. Number two, you should actually spit on your left side and you seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the Satan. And finally, you do not actually think about it, because the shaitan doesn't have the ability to actively affect in you. It's just a dream that would actually insist. For the first type of dream, a person can actually interpret the dreams, but this cannot be done except through people who have proper understanding of interpreting the dreams, and people who studied this, because it may be actually acquired by training and by study. And it happened for Joseph alayhi salam, that he had actually a dream. He was actually empowered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to interpret the dreams, and it happened for him. And even it happened for the Prophet ﷺ and for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq on a couple of occasions, according to Sahih al-Bukhari. So what a person gets from books is just, you can say, guidelines, but to have a correct understanding and interpretation of dreams, a person should actually go to people who have the ability, or the scholars who have the ability to do so. Another question. This is my answer to this question. I think I'm trying to get some of the questions I think I had seen. Okay, now I can see them again. We have Assalamu alaikum. Another question here. Can you please advise us if can fast Shawwal before the fast of Ramadan, or should I make the days first? This is a common question which is raised by many of the brothers and sisters. Should I do the Shawwal, the 6 days of Shawwal before the makeup of Ramadan? According to the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, "Man sama Ramadana thumma atba'ahu sittan min Shawwal." Whoever fasts during the month of Ramadan and then fasts the whole month of Ramadan and then follows it up with 6 days of Shawwal, a person would actually, it is counted for him as if he has fasted the whole year. So according to this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ based the reward mentioned in this hadith on two things. Number one, the completion of the month of Ramadan, and number two, the completion of the fasting of the month of Ramadan, and number two, a person is supposed to add 6 more from the month of Shawwal. A person is highly recommended, and it's to number one, make up the days that he missed during the month of Ramadan, because it's an obligatory deed according to the authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, and a slave, according to the divine hadith, and a slave of mine doesn't draw closer to me by anything but just through the obligatory deeds that he makes. So it is given the first priority, and a person should actually make up the missed days, the missing days that he did not fast during the month of Ramadan. Afterwards, he makes up the 6 days of Shawwal. He can actually start the first days of Shawwal in one occasion if he is sick or if he is on a trap. So in this case, he can actually delay the makeup of the month of Ramadan, and he can make the 6 days of Shawwal. So to get the reward, he must actually complete the month of Ramadan first, and afterwards he gets the month of Shawwal. Another question, we have question, let me actually try, because the screen in front of me, okay. Another question is, can you please advise? Okay, we have already answered this. Another question, we have a question from Hajar, is a care assistant of elderly people. Her question is it permissible for her to do personal care of those males who cannot do by themselves? In this case, this is actually one of the contemporary fiqh issues which is related to, is it permissible for a person, for a male or a female, to take care of another person of the opposite sex in case of, like for example, she is an assistant or she is a doctor? According to the Islamic ruling on this case, that it is permissible in case of necessity or in case of need, which means that if such a person doesn't have the ability, or he doesn't have a doctor from the same sex, like for example, he or she doesn't have a female or male doctor to take care about him or about her. This is the first condition. The second condition, that when a person is in need and he doesn't find a qualified person actually to do this for him, so he can in this case refer to an assistant, provided that she must actually care about not exposing the private parts or things which are, and in case it happens, there must be a mahram, a person of her close relatives. Otherwise, this is a way for opening actually the fitna, and a person should actually be very curious about this. So basically, there must be some conditions to be achieved in this case. Number one, that is a case of necessity or a case of need. Number two, there is no other person who can care about this patient or about this elderly person, and the assistant should actually take care of not exposing the private parts or actually protecting it as much as possible. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Another question. Dawood asks, in discharge of madhi, do I need to do wudu every time? Yes, this is according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which was related by Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, who asked the Messenger ﷺ about madhi, and the Messenger ﷺ said that you have to wash the area which has been solid or polluted by this fluid, in addition to making wudu. So the scholars agreed on the fact that wudu is necessary after a person having this type of fluid. This is madhi or wadi, and it comes actually because of thinking too much about the opposite sex or whatever. Another question from Sister Aya Ba'labaki. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Aya, I have a question please concerning the slaughter of a chicken. For it is to be halal, does it have to be done by hand? In Canada there are many hands halal, many brands halal, and those brands certified, but it is okay. So what I got from your question, that is it permissible for a person to make to slaughter chicken or whatever animals by using a mechanic slaughtering? Yes, it is permissible, provided that the scholars put some certain conditions. Number one, this should be actually conducted by slaughtering, and we make sure that the death happened because of slaughtering, actual slaughtering, and it's not because of just electric shocks. And we need to know that the animal didn't die out of this shock. Number two, it must be slaughtered in the sense that there is an instrument. Number three, the person who pronounces tasmiyah or saying takbir on the animal, it should be actually a Muslim or Christian or a Jew. So these are the basic three conditions, and there is no problem of making tasmiyah for a number of a number of animals at the same time. This is, I think, the view, or this is a decision of the fiqh assembly and so many other fiqh assemblies in the Muslim world, and it has been accepted by the majority of the Muslim scholars, including Ibn al-Uthaymeen and others. There is no problem, and it is supposed actually to have it. It is supposed to have tasmiyah on each animal, but if it is not possible, a person can make tasmiyah on all animals in total. This is according to the view of the Hanafi scholars, who stipulated making the tasmiyah on each certain animal. But according to Shafi'iyya, as you know, that as long as he is a Muslim, and if he forgot actually to make tasmiyah, in this case it is permissible actually to eat of this animal. Okay, we have another question here. Sayyid asks, if you are living in a palace or in a place where it is easy to consume alcohol, again trying, yes, alcohol, and many of your friends are doing this, how can we avoid it? You should actually, the action of the majority of people doesn't justify halal to make it haram, or haram to make it halal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that in the Quran, that the majority of people, if you follow the majority of people, you will definitely be deviated from the straight path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam informed us, and the Sharia in general informed us about some procedures a person should take actually to set himself aside from the halal, from the haram. Like for example, don't mingle with people who are the sinful people who actually engage in those acts or practices. You need actually to avoid sitting with them. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited a person of sharing the same table or the same food with people who are drinking wine. So you are supposedly to cut off your relations with people who are doing this. If they are Muslims and they insist on making those sins, so you need actually to make some precautions of not exposing yourself to the fitna. Do not try and do not approach yourself, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about haram. He said that فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسِرُ وَالْأَنْصَابُ وَالْأَزْلَامُ رِجِسٌ مِّنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. So we have to avoid it. The meaning of avoiding is that you have not to approach it. Do not try to block all the avenues and try to close all the cracks that makes an avenue between or that accesses you to the shaitan's insinuations. So you must avoid this, otherwise you are exposing yourself to fitna and also exposing your religion to a great deficiency. Another question, which is Brother Tilani Abdul Rahman asks, what is the Islamic ruling concerning the unity of Muslim Ummah? What is the Islamic ruling concerning the unity of the Muslim Ummah? It is very clear that the Islamic ruling is that it is that the unity of the Muslim Ummah is a must. It is a must. It's obligatory, and it is one of the highest priorities on the top of obligatory acts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this in a couple of verses of the Quran, and the top of them Allah is saying وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, unite by the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think your question should not ask about the ruling of the unity of the Muslim Ummah, but we need to ask about the means and the ways of securing this unity of the Muslim Ummah. That on the top of them, that we need to adhere to the basic principles of Islam, and on the top of them is a book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which would actually unite us. Aqidah, first of all, is the creed, which would unite the Muslims. And we need also to differentiate between the basic principles and the foundations of unity and some other things which are controversial, and sometimes they are apt to disagreement among scholars. The issues of fiqh, for example, some people, they say that the unity, like for example, when two countries, they fast on 2 different days, this is a juristic issue which is actually apt to disagreement among scholars. The scholars disagreed about it, and some scholars, they said about the unity of sighting, and others who said that each country can have its own sighting. So it is not a matter of unity, because the Ummah adapted this disagreement and accommodated this disagreement throughout its whole history, and it did not affect their unity and their respect and their agreement on the basic foundations of Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide us with this unity, because actually the whole Muslims, they truly suffer from distractions, disagreements and conflicts. Another question from Nazia Malik. Sister Nazia is asking, what is the proper way of doing istikhara? The proper way of doing istikhara, as it is mentioned in the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said that when a person resolves to do something, he should actually pray 2 rak'ats and then he makes the dua. Making the dua, it's any supererogatory rak'ats. A person can do 2 rak'ats at any time, with the exception of the prohibited times where a person is prescribed or prohibited to make prayers in, as you know. And he should make the dua, and the scholars differed where actually a person is supposed to make this dua. Some scholars said that he can make it in his sujood, he can make it after the tashahhud and before making taslim. And a third group said that it is possible to say it after salah. There's no problem to do it. And the dua, as it is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmika wa astaqdiruka biqudratik. You know, the rest of the dua that you seek Allah's consultation about certain thing, and then you name this thing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see if you see, Ya Allah, that this thing is good for myself in this life and the hereafter, facilitate it for me and facilitate me for this and bless it for me. And if you know that it is evil for me in this life, or it brings up an evil for me in the hereafter, so drive me away from it, and don't attach my heart to it, and decree for me what is the best thing. So this is basically the dua. And when a person have this dua, it's not necessarily that he sees a dream or he actually sees something. If he goes ahead and he sees a type of facilitating his affairs and things goes well, so let him go well, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him tawfiq. And if he finds problems, so he knows that there is no khair, there is no good in such a thing or in such a matter. This is briefly the answer on this question. Another question from Brother Mohammad. He asks, is it necessary for a married couple to have intercourse before walima ceremony? Once a woman and a man had concluded the contract of marriage, she becomes his wife according to the regulations of Sharia. She becomes his wife and he becomes her husband. So in this case, the normal duties of a husband and wife. But actually, it is normal to say that usually people try to delay the consummation of marriage for a period of time so that everybody, they can prepare themselves and they can have. If it happens, if a person, and also it's related to the financial responsibility, as long as she is at her home, at her father's home, so the husband doesn't have this responsibility yet until she moves to him. Number two, if it happens that they sit together in a place and they are alone, where it is secured that nobody can actually enter without permission, and which is called khalwa or privacy. In this case, if khalwa happens, so and afterwards he dies, or she dies, or she is divorced, in this case, she deserves the whole amount of dowry. But if no privacy happens, so she deserves only half of the dowry. So every person should be actually aware of these basic things before engaging in marriage. This is basically the answer of Brother Muhammad's question. I think I don't know whether we have further questions from the brothers and sisters. Okay, I'm just thumbing through. Can you please? Okay, I think I have already answered most of these questions. I have last question, some other questions which have been sent to me through the website. One of them, which is, Assalamu alaikum, I am such and such a person, I'm 18 years of age, and subhanallah, bad attitude and lust made me watch videos and images of nude females on the internet and partial porn during this holy month of Ramadan before iftar during the day. I regret this that I did, and I wish I seek Allah's refuge and seeking forgiveness. My question here is, please, did my fast break? I know I have sinned for doing it, but did my fast break? He's actually asking about a certain question, but I need actually to just give him two advices. Number one, the answer on this question is that your fasting is broken if you have ejaculation. If you drop semen, so it actually breaks your fasting. If not, it does not. But the reward of your fasting is actually, it's a big sin. Number two, I personally advise the brother, number one, to control his lust and his desire. And this is in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us about certain things. Number one, if you are able to get married, even a humble marriage, please do it, because the Prophet says, even if you are 18 years old, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ma'ashara shabab man istata'a minkum al-ba'at falyatazawwaj. Whoever is able to make marriage, he must actually do it, because it lowers his gaze and it actually controls his desire. And if he's not able to, he actually should make fasting. Number two, you must, and this is a personal advice, you must actually join Jama'ah congregation in masjid. This is very important. I'm quite sure what happened for you is basically because of a deficiency in your own prayers, a deficiency in making prayers on time in Jama'ah congregation with Muslims. From where did I get it? I get it from the ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Maryam, فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ. And then after them came a generation who succeeded them. They followed their desires and neglected their prayers. So the scholar said, if a person neglects his prayer, he has a deficiency in making prayers on time. Make sure that it consequently drags him into another step, which is following his own lusts and desires. So my personal advice for you, that you raising your iman basically by punctually taking care of your own prayers. This is a question. There is another question from Sister Asmia Persia. I think Sister Nicholas is sending it. Can you send it, Sister Nicola, on my because I didn't see it on the screen. Can you see it on the private conversation that you have just sent to me right now, so that I can actually answer this question? Or I could actually see it now. I think this is a question. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Sister, is it right if a man and a woman is not married and sleeps together, but the man keeps indicating his intentions are pure to make you his wife, but because of your prayer and fasting, okay, but the man keeps indicating his intentions are pure to make you his wife, but because you pray and fast on it and make dua and tell him it's wrong, he stops speaking to you, is it right? Actually, subhanallah, this is one of the steps of the shaitan. This is one of the steps of the shaitan. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَجْتَمَعَ رَجُلٌ وَامْرَأَةٌ, a man and woman, if they agree, if they meet together in a place, make sure that the third one amongst them is the shaitan, who tries to whisper in their minds. It is absolutely prohibited according to Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited this, and the Prophet ﷺ has absolutely prohibited, and this is one of the avenues of committing adultery and fornication. And a person should not actually play games with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't deceive yourself, don't deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? Don't claim that when you draw yourself closer to this person, that you would actually affect him and it would actually increase his iman. No. In fact, in most of cases, he would actually affect you and drag you to, because he, with the help of the shaitan, would actually drag you to what is wrong. So we need actually to follow what the Prophet ﷺ has drawn to us. It is absolutely prohibited of doing this, and a person should actually, a man and a woman should not live at the same place where doors are closed, because the shaitan would actually whisper, and the shaitan runs in the blood of the son of Adam, as the Messenger ﷺ has mentioned in a couple of hadith. So definitely it would actually, and the Prophet and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, do not draw closer to zina, to adultery. Why? How we should not actually draw ourselves closer to zina? By taking all steps to zina, looking to the other side with illustrious desire, meeting, shaking hands, kissing, talking, private talking, chatting. All of those are avenues of the shaitan that draws person closer to this sin, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has absolutely prohibited this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. This is briefly our answer to the questions which have been sent to our website about Islam. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from all of us, and to provide us with tranquility and peace of mind in the whole of our lives. Jazakumullahu khairan, and we meet inshallah again for another session. Please don't hesitate in raising and sending your questions to the website, and we will definitely collect them and we'll try to answer all those questions inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your days and nights and your ibadat and your families. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.